Hi friends, welcome to another video of mine. If you guys are new here, my name is Rachelle. I'm so glad you guys are here today. This is a video that I'm kind of excited about, but also a little bit nervous because in this video, I'm going to be reading until I get a 5-star read. I have seen so many other YouTubers do this video as well, and it seems like such a fun challenge, and that's why I wanted to do it myself as well. But I'm a little nervous because I know myself and I am a very picky reader. I rarely give books 5 stars. I think last year in 2023 I had less than 10 5-star reads. What I'm trying to say is that I really don't give 5 stars that often. So this video could possibly be very long, or I might just come across a 5-star read super quickly and this video would be very short. I really don't know how this video is gonna end and how long it'll take me to find a 5-star read. All I know is that it's definitely gonna be a fun and interesting journey, and this is something I just wanted to try out and take you guys along with me. The first book I want to read in this video is Good Material by Dolly Alderton. This is their new release. It just came out last month in January. I'm actually excited to read this book because I haven't read any of Dolly's fiction novels. I read one of her non-fiction novels, but this would be my first fiction novel of hers. Yeah, so I'm really excited to see what I think about her fiction work. All I know so far is that I love this cover. It's so pretty. It is just so bold and aesthetically pleasing to me. It is currently mid-February and I'm choosing to read this book now because Dolly Alderton is actually coming to Canada and she's doing this little conference in my city, and I got tickets to go listen to her talk, which I am so excited for. So I really want to read her newest release before her conference, which is actually a week from now. So I'm really hoping I finish it before then. But yeah, this is the book I'm going to start off with, so let's just get into it. It is now a couple days later and I am currently 147 pages into Good Material. And in this book, we follow Andy, who has recently gone through this breakup with this girl named Jen, who he's been in a relationship with for almost 4 years. In this book, we read about Andy's thoughts and feelings post-breakup and his recovery and self-growth journey after this breakup. We also get to read about his progress of hopefully becoming a successful stand-up comedian. I don't know why, but I actually thought this book would be told from Jen's POV instead of Andy's, but it makes sense why it's told from Andy's POV because he represents the normal person, or at least what's common in people when they've been broken up with, or even in any kind of relationship they didn't want to end. So far though, I'm not really sure how to feel about Andy's character. I will say that he's a very good representation of what someone does after a relationship ends. It's actually pretty accurate, and I sometimes find myself being able to relate to Andy. However, I'm not sure if I like reading about things I know I shouldn't do but do anyways during these hard times. Having read this much of the book already, I definitely think though that this book is a book that a lot of people can relate to. I'm going to the In Conversation event with Dolly Alderton and Monica Heisey tomorrow, which is actually really exciting. I honestly don't know what to expect, but I definitely think it's going to be a very fun evening. Of course, I will be sure to film a little bit of the evening for you guys.
I mean, my number one piece of advice is to just lean into the joy, to sound just as LA as you are for a moment, is to, you know, spend time with your friends. I think there's so much that we feel taken away from us when a relationship ends, like, you know, the kind of conviviality of in-jokes and the domesticity of a shared home and the warmth of intimacy and someone who's known us for a long time. And you know, you can find that stuff. That's like buried treasure that's just in your life most of the time, and you can find that in your friendship. So if you can lean into the safety and the love and even the romance and adventure of that, I think in that period where you're mourning someone, it becomes much easier. The worst thing to do is to cut yourself off, which is what I tend to do.
Wake up this morning, make the mistake of turning on the TV. Nothing but bad news, empty avenues rolling on the screen. Oh, walk to the kitchen and make myself a cup of coffee. Wave at the older man, get into something on his balcony. Oh, Yeah, we both have been stuck in our apartments for 2 months too long. We don't even get along, but the world just fell apart straight out of the blue. So in my mind I whisper ciao and I take myself to Tuscany.
Hello friends, it is a new day. The In Conversation event with Dolly Alderton and Monica Heisey was so fun. I really enjoyed hearing these two women talk. I absolutely love both of their personalities. They both have such great energy when they talk, and I honestly think that's what made this event such a fun and enjoyable experience. There was actually a lot of people there. It was a sold out event. That alone just tells you how many people love Dolly Alderton. This was actually my first author event. I honestly don't know why I don't go to more of these because I really should. At this event though, I bought 2 books. I bought this signed copy of Good Material, and I also bought one of Dolly's other books called Ghost. I don't know when I'm gonna read that book yet, but I'm actually excited to read it because I heard a lot of good things about it. Unfortunately, that book of mine wasn't actually signed because I didn't get to meet Dolly myself. This event sadly didn't include a meet and greet. Anyway, I read more of Good Material. I think I have less than 100 pages left of this book. I'm not gonna lie, I'm actually kind of getting annoyed with Andy's character a little bit. Some of his decisions are becoming a little silly. I just think he's good-hearted but such an insufferable character. As I'm reading this book, I find myself pulling away from the story every so often, and I think that might just be because of Andy because I don't love his character. Also, as I'm reading this book, I never thought that what I'm reading are actually things that goes through a man's brain. Andy overthinks almost everything, and I honestly thought a lot of guys don't overthink things. At least not the men in my life. I mean, a lot of the times I personally overthink a lot of things, and the men in my life constantly tell me I'm overthinking it. So that's kind of why in my brain I feel like men don't overthink things. But the way Andy is, it must be similar to men out there because I remember Dolly saying at the event that to prepare herself to write this book, she actually interviewed a lot of men so that the story would be realistic. Anyway, like I said earlier, I have less than 100 pages left of this book, so I'm really hoping that I can finish this book today.
Tuscany, Italy, eating carbonara and reading Machiavelli while the world ends. That's where I will be. Go back to my room. I pick up the laptop to join a work call. I don't think Erin knows that she's wearing her sweatshirt.
So yesterday I finished reading Good Material. I actually liked the last half of the book more than I liked the first half. I just think when Andy fixated less on his breakup with Jen, the book just became a better read. Also, the last chapter of this book was in Jen's POV, and I actually didn't expect that at all. But I'm so glad we got it because I think that might actually be my favorite part of the book. It was just really nice to have a fresh perspective, and I really loved how we got to read what was going through Jen's head and why she initiated the breakup. After reading Jen's perspective, I'm not gonna lie, I would have broken up with Andy as well. He might have loved Jen, but he just wasn't a good partner. I ended up rating this book 3.5 stars. I enjoyed reading it for the most part, but it's definitely not gonna be one of those books where I'm constantly thinking about it. When it comes to this book, really the only thing I'll think about is just how pretty the cover is. Because that book wasn't a 5-star read, let's move on to the next book. I started reading Powerless on my Kindle a while back ago. This is the 3rd book in the Chestnut Spring series by Elsie Silver. I thought I'd just continue reading this book in this vlog. This is a romance about 2 childhood friends. Sloane is a professional ballerina and Jasper is a pro hockey player. When Sloane's life falls apart on her wedding day, Jasper is the one who swoops in and saves the day. And of course, when the roles are reversed, Sloane returns the favor. But the more time they spend together, Jasper feels less and less like a friend to Sloane and more like everything she's ever wanted from Jasper. Because of course, Jasper was her childhood crush. But of course, being friends first, crossing that line comes with its own set of problems. I'm about 50% of the way through this book, so let's just see how much more I can read of this book in the next little bit.
So it's just begun, and there's something.
Okay friends, so I am now 75% of the way through Powerless. I actually think Jasper and Sloane make such a great couple. I love how Jasper gives Sloane a chance to feel and ask for what she wants, because almost all her life, Sloane has basically been told how to feel and how to act by her father and then by her ex-fiance, which is so unhealthy. So I'm so glad that Sloane is finally developing healthy relationships in her life. But something I don't like about the book is how there's not a lot of hockey in it. This book, Powerless, was actually the book I was most excited to read in this entire series, solely because I knew it was a hockey romance and I love hockey romances. But what's really sad is that I'm 75% of the way through this book and all we got was one hockey game. Basically, Jasper gets suspended from the team early on in the story and that's why there's not a lot of hockey in it. But because of that, that's how he and Sloane get to spend more time together and grow as friends and then a couple. I'm glad that Jasper and Sloane get that time together, but I still just wish there was a little more hockey in this story. I'm just hoping that there will be a little more in the last 25% of this book. But right now though, I really want to start House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah J Maas. This is the third book in the Crescent City series. I'm really excited for this book because the second book left off in the biggest cliffhanger ever. It was definitely a really shocking ending and I was desperate for this next book to see where the journey goes for all the characters. This book is super thick though, so it's definitely going to take me a little bit of time to read this book. I didn't vlog the last couple days, but I did end up finishing Powerless. I enjoyed reading this book. It was such a cute romance. I love seeing the growth of both Sloane and Jasper, but I actually went into this book thinking that it would be the best book in the entire series. I don't know why, but I just had a feeling that it was gonna be good, and it was. There was nothing bad about it, but unfortunately, this is my least favorite book in the series. There was just a few things I wanted more of. Again, I just wish there was a little more hockey in this book, and also the first half of the book felt a little slow to me, so I wish the big story events were a little bit more spread out, so the pacing of the book would have felt a little more even. Overall, again, I did enjoy it, so I gave this book 3.75 stars. And then I read more of House of Flame and Shadow. I'm 280 pages into this book. I'm really not that far into this book because it's such a thick book, but I'm not going to complain because so far I am loving this book and I don't want this book to end. I'm actually hanging on to every single word in this book. Whenever I pick up this book, it has my undivided attention. That's how much I love this book so far. And when I usually feel this way about a book, it usually becomes one of my 5-star reads. I don't want to say this book is a 5-star read yet because again, I'm not that far into this book. I still have so much to read and things can obviously change. So all I'm going to say is that this book may be a strong contender to be a 5-star read. And that is surprising to me because I never thought this book had a chance at being a 5-star read. I picked up this book to read in this video not because I thought it would be a 5-star, but because I just really wanted to read it. Don't get me wrong, I love Sarah J Maas in all of her books, but this series in particular, it is SJM's first adult series, so the stories are a little more dense and it definitely has a lot more world building and detail. And with the first and second book, I found that it was easy to drift away from the story because of how dense and stretched out the story was. But with this book so far, I haven't felt that way at all, and I'm actually soaking up every single chapter of this book. I actually know why I feel this way about this book right now, but I can't say anything because then I'll be spoiling something big for all of you out there who haven't read the series yet, and I can't do that to you guys. But what I will say is that when I started reading this book, it felt like I was hit by a wave of nostalgia. I read Crescent City 1 and 2 last summer, so it's been a while since I read about the world and the characters, and oh my god, I actually miss them so much. Since I last spoke to you guys, I also started In the Likely Event by Rebecca Yarros on my Kindle. I like to have 2 books going on at once. It's usually 1 physical book and 1 on my Kindle. I haven't read any of the romance books by Rebecca Yarros. I only read Fourth Wing and the sequel Iron Flame, but I decided to give one of Rebecca's other books a try, so I picked In a Likely Event because I saw that it was available on Kindle Unlimited. I'm not that far into it yet, so I don't really have that many thoughts on it so far, but I will update you guys on my thoughts on both of these books actually when I continue reading them.
Lazy Sunday mornings, hiding under covers. I don't mind staying in with you. Play your favorite movie, laying right beside me. I don't mind when it's just us two. That corner coffee shop we like to go. Late night walks with you to take me home. With you I never feel alone.
I I am now a little over halfway through this book and I am enjoying every single minute of it. I actually genuinely miss Sarah J Maas's writing. I just forgot how captivating her characters are and the world itself too. I absolutely love how SJM always writes such badass female characters who have snarky personalities. I feel like some people don't love that in female characters, especially because it might sometimes make them annoying. But personally, I really love them. I just think their banter with any other character is just so funny. I've read all of SJM's other books and her characters never disappoint. I also really love how SJM frequently switches between POVs in this book. She probably wrote it this way because there are a lot of characters and there's also quite a few journeys and adventures going on simultaneously. So this way, when she constantly switches POVs, we get constant updates of where each character is at. I'm actually so glad she wrote it this way. I honestly probably wouldn't have liked this book as much if the story carried too long in one POV, because I know my mind and I know that I will constantly be thinking about the other characters and wondering what they're up to, and then I wouldn't really be paying attention to the POV I had in front of me. I'm almost done House of Flame and Shadow. I have about like 300 pages left. I know I can finish this book soon, but it's kind of like bittersweet because I'm excited to see what happens and how this book ends, but I'm also sad because I really don't want the story to end. But I did make it further in the likely event. This book is about Nate and Izzy. Izzy is on her way home, so she boards this plane and that's where she meets her seatmate Nate. They start this conversation and their connection is undeniable. But just after 90 seconds after takeoff, their plane goes down. They survive, but of course they both change. Nate goes on to a career in the military while Izzy finds her way in politics. But despite a few chance encounters over the years, the timing never felt right between the two of them. Then they find themselves on a high-stakes reunion in Afghanistan, where Nate's job is to protect Izzy's life. I need to start off by saying that I don't love reading about a plane crash. As someone who travels pretty often, I don't really want to experience what it's like to be in a plane crash. Even if the experience is only on paper and it's fictional, I still don't like reading about it. It just doesn't give me the best feeling. Also, this book alternates between past and present every chapter, and Rebecca wrote this in a way that she gives us some information, but she doesn't give us details of that piece of information until later on in the book. I don't know if I'm explaining that well, but basically the backstory unfolds over time, and that method of storytelling is kind of confusing me right now, because as I'm reading this book, when I come across a piece of information that doesn't make sense to me, I'm constantly thinking and wondering, did I read that piece of information earlier on and I just forgot about it, or it just hasn't been revealed to us yet? It's usually the latter, but my brain automatically thinks it's not, so that's why as I'm reading this book, I often find myself confused. Also, this book has a lot of military talk, especially in the present day perspective. I honestly don't really know anything about the military, so that's another reason to why I find myself confused a lot when I'm reading this book. Guys, we have our 5-star read here. Oh my god, I love this book with my entire heart. I'm not sure if there's gonna be another book in this series or not, but I really hope there is, just because of how much I love the world and the characters and I just want the story to go on. I do have this feeling though, if there's going to be another book, that it will be a long way until we get that book. Anyway though, let me tell you guys my thoughts on this book. This is by far my favorite book in the series, because the series in particular is quite dense in comparison to SJM's other series. I definitely feel like it took reading the first and the second book in order to fully fall in love with the world and the characters, and that's why when I started this book, I was already so invested into the story. Like the other books in this series, SJM put a lot of detail in her writing. In a way, it stretches out the story and it makes the storyline feel longer and slower. Usually in fantasy books, that would bother me a lot because my brain would start to zone off, and this actually did happen to me when I was reading the second book, but I actually did not feel this way at all when I was reading this book, because again, I was so invested in the story and I was actually soaking up every single word, and I never felt like this book was just dragging on. This book definitely felt like such a good wrap up of the story. In Crescent City, when we had this problem and it just spiraled into something bigger, and then in Crescent City 2, we were trying to put an end to this problem but it failed, and then in this book, it was like a second attempt to end that problem, and it finally happened. By the end of this book, the story just felt so complete, and I absolutely love that feeling. I feel like this series could end here if it wanted to, but there is also room for it to continue. However, I'm not really sure where it would go. I kind of have this feeling that this might be like the ACOTAR series where there's a main trilogy and then the rest of the books would be part of the series but also different in a way. I don't really know how to explain it, but if you read the ACOTAR series, you probably know what I mean. In this book, I also really loved how we got to see some of the characters become more fleshed out. It was just really nice to get a better understanding of who they are. My copy of House of Flame and Shadow is also the Indigo exclusive edition, so that means I get a bonus chapter, and that extra content I got did not disappoint. I loved reading that chapter a lot. One thing I will say this book lacks in though is the romance. I feel like a lot of people read Sarah J Maas's books because they are fantasy books with a lot of romance and smut in it. However, this book doesn't really have that much romance in it. In this 800-page book, there's probably like 3 smutty scenes in it. In comparison to ACOTAR and Throne of Glass, this series in general doesn't have a lot of romance in it. So if you're looking for a fantasy read with a lot of romance in it, I wouldn't go towards reading the Crescent City series. Actually, if you're planning on diving into SJM's books, I would actually recommend you to read the Crescent City series last, because Sarah J Maas finds a way to connect all her series together, which I absolutely love that she does that. But if you were to pick up the Crescent City series first, you would spoil a lot for yourself in her other series. It's crazy for me to think that I've actually read all of Sarah J Maas's books. I've read the entire Throne of Glass series, the ACOTAR series, and now the Crescent City series. Guys, that is 16 books there. That is absolutely crazy to me. I'm just such a big fan of Sarah J Maas and all her books. Going back to this book though, this book definitely deserves the 5 stars. Because we found our 5-star read, that means this video is now over. But before I go, I wanted to give you guys a little update of where I'm at in the likely event. I'm not done this book yet. I'm like 65% of the way through. The further I get into this book, the more I realize I don't like reading about the military and just being in the war setting. It's just not for me. I actually enjoy reading the POV in the past more than I enjoy reading the POV in the present day, because the past actually doesn't have that much military content in it. I really don't think this book is going to be a 5-star read, but I will say I definitely like the characters enough to finish reading this book. I am interested in seeing how Nate and Izzy get together in the end. I definitely think they have great chemistry, and it actually sucks to see the connection grow between the two of them over the 10 years they've known each other, but never get together because it's just not the right time for them. The love and the connection is just so clearly there. Anyways guys, that is all I have for you in this video. I hope you enjoyed this reading vlog and just enjoyed seeing me go on a journey to find my next 5-star read. I truly enjoyed filming this video. This entire journey was just so fun, and I definitely think I'll do a video like this again in the future. If you guys have read any of these books, please do let me know your thoughts on them in the comments down below. I would love to hear what you guys think. And just for fun, if you guys are feeling up to it, comment down below what you're currently reading. I would love to hear what you guys are up to. If you're still currently watching this video right now, thank you so much for your support. It means the world to me that you are watching this. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. And with that, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!
Pull the key out the ignition. Run your mouth but I never listen. You hold me back, will never last. Keep talking all your shit. Wondering how all this started. You left me broken hearted. You flip my words, yeah, this love hurts. Keep talking all your shit.